The complete and total failure of Joe Biden over the last 15 months has forced the leftist progressive power brokers in California, New York, and D.C. to shift tactics, and many people on the right are not seeing it. Some are celebrating the fact that CNN and MSNBC have started to take the president to task and look at his job performance critically, even calling into question the story about his son's laptop. Nobody is seeing what they are doing. They are changing the argument from the vision to the man. What do I mean when I say that? They are going to try to hang the complete and total failure of progressive leftism on this man's personal inability to implement it properly. They're going to make him the failure, not the idea. Let me say it again. They're going to make him personally the failure, not the idea. Oh, only if we had somebody who could have done a better job of implementing things with a more powerful and charismatic style of leadership. He was the failure, not our vision. And too many people on the right are missing this because they're so ecstatic that they get the ha 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 moment. They get the ability to laugh at the left and say, see how big of a failure you were, and see how much better the other choice would have been. You see, they did that with the last president too. They personalized things. Instead of talking about ideas and visions for the future and plans and solutions, they talk about people. Sun Tzu said, there are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. And when you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. I'm fearful that people on the right, conservatives, are going to push too hard. They've lost. They did it to themselves. Their ideas have failed. But because so many on the right want that good feeling moment of laughing at Joe Biden and saying, ha ha ha, we're right, they're going to continue to push this in a personal direction and not the direction of ideas. And that's going to leave the ideas of conservatism at a disadvantage when it just comes down to the person. Now, if you'd like more information on psychological operations and this particular topic, we're going to do a video this week on this over at Patreon, $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year. We don't have to worry about the censors here because we're partnering with Vimeo. Those of you who have been over to the Patreon channel will be able to attest down in the comments that they do, in fact, not censor nearly as much as they do here. And the things that you can say on a Vimeo channel are pretty much not censored by anyone because there's that $1 paywall, that little tiny speed bump that stops the censors. This is going to be a problem. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When you corner a cat, a little 10-pound house cat, that 10-pound house cat can do an amazing amount of damage when it thinks it has nothing else to lose. When it thinks it's in the fight for its life. This is Nikki Fried, the lone statewide elected Democrat in Florida. There are a lot of polls out showing that she's way, way, way behind Governor DeSantis. A lot of polls for Charlie Crist the same way. They're going to pull out all the stops. And this has to do with something I did a video on years ago. Nikki Fried is a partaker of a certain green substance that grows in ditches that you can roll up into paper, and you can use a lighter, and that's all I can really say here on YouTube, because apparently you can't speak about that at all. What if all of the folks who are currently incarcerated or have records would have the ability to get out of jail, have their records expunged, and no longer have to fear getting caught with too much of this particular substance? What if Nikki Fried would offer, if she were to become governor, to begin expunging records and releasing people from prisons and jails, and allowing the free and unfettered access to as much drugs as you want? You see, this is what addicts do. They vote their addiction. Now, it would be a smarmy thing to do, but when you corner a cat, all bets are off. I talked about this in a couple of videos, how when there's a shit hits the fan situation, the first thing they're going to do is release the prisoners. Well, for the Democrats, the liberals, the progressives, this is their end of the world as we know it moment. Their shit hits the fan moment. They're on the precipice of losing all power in the next 2 years. And no matter what negative you might say about this person, the drug addict is only going to vote their drug addiction. Everything they do, everything they think, every action they take, those who partake in that, it is predicated on, does it make it easier for me to do this, or does it make it harder for me to do this? That's the only calculus they do in their head. Now, another great analogy. Germany lost World War I badly. And in only a couple decades, they came blasting across the Maginot Line in France and drove the British and the French all the way to Dunkirk, and it was a miracle that any British or French soldiers escaped after only a couple decades. Now, some people look at the Maginot Line and they just see a marker line on a map, and they don't think about what it really means. The Maginot Line was an incredible feat of engineering of its day. But it was a feat of engineering designed to fight a World War I style war. The Germans invented Blitzkrieg. They invented World War II style war. Nobody else in the world knew how to do it. Everybody else was doing things the World War I way, while Germany was doing things the World War II way. They invented it. That's what's happening right now. The leftists are going to invent a new kind of warfare. This feat of engineering was a marvel of its day. They had dug huge bunkers throughout all of these hills and mountains, 4 and 5 and 6 levels, with hospitals, movie theaters, telephone bureaus, stores, recreation, gymnasiums, quarters they could live in, huge stores of ammunition, even a subway that went all along and through the Maginot Line with huge artillery pillboxes, machine gun nests, tank barricades, barbed wire entanglements, anti-aircraft guns. This wasn't just a line of a bunch of sticks. This was an incredible feat of engineering, and it was rendered useless. Absolutely and totally useless, because it was outdated. And the enemy had invented a new way of doing things. The Maginot Line took 10 years to build. 280 miles long. 78 fire control stations. Huge stores of diesel fuel and supplies. No way to cut off the communications, and they just rolled right over it. You see, they tried to learn from World War I to do things better the World War I way. They didn't consider the fact that perhaps there was a new way of doing things. Germany lost World War I, and they had to retreat and give up. Look what happened. They came back in World War II. And it gave rise to the Maquis. One fact about the Maquis that a lot of people don't realize is that they didn't like Great Britain. They saw the British as much of a occupying force as the Germans. And that perhaps their alliance with the Britons was a problem. When people are cornered, when they are made to feel hopeless, like there is no other way out, the entire calculus changes. Everything changes. A new style of warfare begins. And if you're not ready for it, it'll hit you out of nowhere, just like what happened to the Maginot Line. Keep your eyes open. Sun Tzu warned of this. Would love to have you over at Patreon later this week. We're going to have a video up, and we're going to do a real deep dive into this kind of psychology. These progressives, these leftists, they are going to try to personalize this. They don't want someone to even consider that their ideas are a failure, that the direction they want the country to go is a failure, and nobody wants to go that way. They're going to make this about him personally as a man, and there's going to be a whole lot of people on the right not seeing what they're doing. We're going to jump right along with this because it's going to feel good to call the guy names. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, but the failure is in the ideas. The failure is in the ideas, not in just him personally. There's nobody else that could have put forth these ideas and done it in a way that would have resulted in any other outcome. That's what they don't want anyone saying. Only if we had had this person, or only if we had had that person. If we had just this or that or the other. The ideas are sound. That's what they want you to believe. Their ideas are sound when they're not. And they're going to try to make it about him. Don't fall for it. I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.